Picture this. It's early 2015, you're just about a teenager, and you don't have much of a social life. You've just slain a Matsuma Gatsuchi, and are ready to immerse yourself into your English patch of Monster Hunter Portable 3rd's glorious G rank. Except there isn't a G rank, and that disappointing realization hits you like a truck. By some stroke of luck, your aunt gifts you a brand new 3DS XL in a game of your choice. Of course, there was really only one correct choice, the latest Monster Hunter entry, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. But hold on, what's so great about this Monster Hunter title? Well, it gave us both the Charge Blade and the Insect Glaive, the ability to mount monsters, and one of the coolest flagship monsters in the franchise. This had all the ingredients to leave a lasting impression on teenage me. It's also still considered by many, myself included, to be the greatest entry in the franchise, whether it be because of its charming story or its innovative gameplay features that would only evolve in later titles. This will be a cozy retrospective playthrough of the Monster Hunter title that cemented my love for the franchise. Oh, and it's a random weapon challenge run too for some reason. Anyways, you rush to your room, plug in that unfamiliar cable, and boot the game up. Character creation sped through, and we're met with an opening that throws our hunter onto a dragon ship sailing through the sand. We meet the Caravaneer, who's a treasure hunter headed to the port town of Habar, looking to recruit members for, his caravan. He points out a swarm of Remobra above, and if you know your lore, that's a sign of Elder Dragon trouble. Suddenly, a giant sand whale jumps over your ride and he loses his hat onto the monster's back. You'll probably notice here the way the cutscene goes seamlessly from action to gameplay. I never consciously took note of this back then, but it was a feature that did so much to immerse you into the game. He praises the size of our cojones as we offer to go and get his hat back from the monster that we now know as the Darren Moran. Let's just ignore how I missed the easiest jump ever. We learn how to load and fire cannonballs at the Darren Moran and hit the gong right on time to stun it. The town is alerted to the threat and a fleet is sent out to help to repel it. Once the dust settles, we get a first look at the Caravaneer's motivation, the article. The game's opening works so well for a few reasons. Firstly, it sets the stage with some world building for the game. Second, it introduces the first important NPC to the story. Third, it lets the player come face to face with a Darren Moran in what is sneakily a siege battle tutorial that doubles as a teasing promise that you will get to hunt giant monsters in this game. Perhaps most importantly though, we get a look at the mysterious article. What is it? Where did it come from? We'll find out soon enough. I might as well explain the playthrough while I get through these tutorial quests. Like I mentioned earlier, the 4th generation of Monster Hunter introduced 2 new weapon types to the series, the Charge Blade and the Insect Glaive. This brought the weapon roster count to the current 14 that we know and love today. As a player, you're normally encouraged to pick a weapon that has a playstyle that fits you. Every weapon has its own rhythm and pace, and I figured, what better way to experience that than with a run where my weapon is constantly randomized? This is how it's gonna work. I'll spin a wheel to obtain a weapon type if it's a slaying or capturing quest. I'll spin it for every hunt, even if I'm farming the same monster. I'll also be trying to complete every optional quest before advancing through a key quest. Some immediate thoughts that come up. I'm terrible with bowguns and especially terrible with bows. Resources will be very important, so I'll gather as much as possible on every quest that I go on. And I don't know why I put myself through this. That being said, this video isn't meant to be a difficult challenge run or anything. I just needed something interesting to spice this playthrough up, so don't look at it that way, okay? Before we start questing though, it's time for our very first village review. We've just set foot in Habar, a port town by the edge of the Great Desert. It's got some strikingly colored bunting, and a great view that combines the land, sky, and sea. We've got a nicely carpeted entrance to our caravan room, and the inside is defyingly spacious and well decorated. It comes with an adorable housekeeper, an all-in-one item box, a comfy bed, and of course, our dear beloved, Poogie.
You're my friend now. We're having soft tacos later.
Here's the Habar armory, which has a keeper that gives you advice about each weapon type. He's also involved in the illicit business of monster eggs, but we'll get to that later. Next is the Wycoon, who seems to be closed from business until trade routes are open again. Delicious smells wafting from the wok of the somewhat racist depiction of a Chinese street cook. Check out the detail in that rice frying animation. Lastly, here's the market lady standing next to her colorful produce. She gives us tips about various items and tells us that the gathering hall is just ahead of the village. Now, while they aren't technically part of the village, I'd like to introduce our caravan members. There's the ever-ambitious leader, the Caravaneer, the clumsy, caring, monster-loving guildmarm, Sophia, and the stoic, reliable smithy of few words, the man. Overall, paired with its theme that invokes the start of a grand adventure, I'd give Habar 4 stars out of 5. Here's a fun fact. In Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Habar merges with Wakanda to become Valkanda. Apart from how random this crossover is, this implies that Habar exists in the Monster Hunter equivalent of Africa. Cool. Anyways, let's start questing already. The first few quests were pretty trivial. It's kind of a ritual in Monster Hunter where you have to do all these gathering and small monster quests before getting to the meat of things. But here's something we can talk about, the ridiculous egg fetching quests. What's ridiculous about it, you may ask? Well, other than the fact that there's apparently a secret egg mafia in this world that tasks you with illegally fetching monster eggs, it's how they design these egg quests to so intricately infuriate you. Keep in mind, in World, you could slap on a ghillie mantle, and in Rise, you could straight up swing like Spider-Man while holding an egg. Well, back then, you couldn't even roll with an egg without it breaking.
Oh my god, bro.
But I'll keep it tame for this first one, because later on, it only gets so much worse. For this first egg quest, we need to deliver 2 Gargwa eggs. We're required to hit them in the butt to get them to lay an egg, and then painstakingly carry it back to camp. The first egg is gifted to us by a cutscene, so I grab it and head back. Oh, what's this? There's suddenly at least 6 Jaggi trying to knock the precious egg out of your hands that weren't there before. Not to worry, a bit of strafing and sprinting, and I successfully deliver the first egg. Now for the painful part about these quests, the shortest route back to camp almost always gets blocked after the first egg. That means we'll have to take a huge detour around the zone just to get and deliver any more eggs. Where do these boulders come from anyways? Time for the second egg. I get a golden one that doesn't count for the quest, and I figured, why not waste more of my time and just deliver this one for extra points? More Jaggi appear to try and knock our egg down, but we narrowly avoid them and get to zone 2. We avoid a Malinx on the way down and deliver the golden egg. Returning to the Gargwa, we get another golden egg, and this time I decide to leave and wait for the Gargwa to respawn. We finally get a normal egg, narrowly avoid an Altaroth bite, and alas, complete the quest. Phew, not too bad, huh? If you know to eat for feline Supercat and Lander, these quests get way easier. Supercat reduces your stamina depletion when sprinting, and also prevents small knockbacks when holding an egg. And Lander prevents you from breaking eggs when dropping from high places. I wish I knew that as a kid. Anyways, the eggs are delivered, and we're finally in the big leagues. He tries to sing us the Egg Syndicate song, but we're spared the goof when the cops come by. We complete one more fishing quest and finally get to hunt our first large monster, the Great Jaggi. A spin of the wheel means I had to use an insect glaive, which is great because the insect glaive was busted in this game. We start off with a cutscene introducing the mounting mechanic. If you're unfamiliar, jump attacks and mounting monsters was first introduced in this generation of Monster Hunter, and here's how it works. Perform enough jump attacks and you get to hop on the monster's back. When the monster isn't flailing around, You mash your top face button to fill the bar up, and when it is flailing around, hold your right trigger to hold on for dear life. Once the bar is filled, we get a free knockdown on the monster.
Hooray!
The Insect Glaive was the perfect new weapon to complement this added verticality that came with mounting. It always felt a little daunting back then to learn, as you now have to control a Kinsect to maintain extracts that buff you. Different monster parts would net you different extracts. In short, red gives you attack, white gives you mobility, and orange buffs your defense. Get all three and you get a super buff. There were green extracts that healed you for a little bit too, but I don't think anyone actually cared for that. The buffs were pretty huge in 4 Ultimate, like a 25% attack boost, earplugs, and improved attacks in your moveset. As to why it was the perfect weapon for mounting, well, you can vault into the air with a glaive and perform jumping attacks from midair. Now you have no need to find a cliff to mount monsters. I'll never forget all the hunters online terrorizing monsters with their portable helicopter sticks. I spent some time gathering and carving some small monster parts on the way to the weekend great Jaggi. I embarrassingly missed a few attacks, but we finally got the job done, and that's officially the first of many large monsters to come. Speaking of large monsters to come, we've got another key quest next, and it's the Seltas. I rolled a sword and shield and head straight for the oversized cockroach. A nice little cutscene reveals our target, and then it's time to scale a cliff, only to be immediately knocked right off. Classic. Now, I've never been the biggest Sword and Shield fan, and it's probably obvious from how badly I'm playing here. I wasn't quite sure on the best combos to use, but the great thing about this weapon is its mobility, and that lets me dodge and weave through the fight without too much trouble. It's definitely not my most graceful hunt, but hey, it works. After a little chase, we get the chance to mount the Seltas, and here's what holding onto a giant cockroach looks like in action. It's a wild ride, but we managed to bring it down before it has a chance to flee to another zone. That was a little too easy, but don't worry, we'll be seeing this little guy again. We catch up with the Ace Cadet, and yes, that's Aiden from World and Legends of the Guild. With the Seltas key quest behind us, our hunter gets cleared by the guild to embark on expeditions. These are basically quests that have a randomized map within the new Everwood locale. You can get unique equipment rewards, and there's even monsters that can only be found within these expeditions. I know we'll be encountering a Velocidrome in this one, so I spin the wheel and, lucky me, we get the Charge Blade. Now the Charge Blade's the other new weapon introduced in the 4th generation, and it's actually the weapon I ended up maining back then. I know, another Charge Blade main. In Freedom Unite, I played a lot of Gunlance, and in the 3rd generation, I always gravitated towards the Switch Axe. It felt like the Charge Blade was the next logical step for me. The Caravaneer yaps on about how expeditions work, but all you really need to know is that the zones are randomized and linear, meaning we don't really have a detailed map overview to look at. Another thing to note is that we can't fail by fainting on expeditions, and the wagon that lets us leave is always located in the last zone. He explains to us why taking the Velocidrome down would be beneficial, and, as hunters do, we start getting to work. A lot of the fanbase think Charge Blade is complex or difficult, but to be honest, it's a pretty straightforward weapon. Charge your files in sword mode, get your red shield up, and then go ham and unload more files in axe mode. I mean, it's consistently like the 5th most popular weapon in the game, so it can't be that hard. I fell in love with the Charge Blade because of its guard point mechanic. Certain animations have guard point frames in which your hunter is technically in a guarding state. And if you have red shield active, you'll trigger a file explosion when you land that guard point. It's like a reward for timing your block perfectly. The most accessible guard point is at the start of the morph into axe mode, and it lets you go straight into an ant element discharge. The weapon itself is also just such a cool concept. It's a sword and shield that morphs into a giant axe, and the axe unloads explosions that can stun monsters. Realistically, I have no idea how that would work, but this weapon gets the rule of cool pass. Anyways, we finish the Velocidrome off and head towards the last zone of the expedition, which means we can hop on the wagon and head home. Upon returning, we find out from the caravaneer that the street cook has agreed to join our caravan as, well, a cook. There's more good news as we receive a letter of commendation from the guild and we're authorized to now take part in guild quests. The caravaneer voices his intentions, that once the caravan gets a merchant on board, he wants to leave Habar to build a ship in order to pursue the article. He pulls it out and explains that pursuing this article has been him and the man's goal for a long time. In fact, that's the whole reason this caravan exists. He speaks with such conviction about discovering the article's purpose, and you can't help but feel that perhaps, just maybe, you'll be the hunter that finally brings it to fruition. The wheel nets us the longsword, and we set off for the guild quest, which involves a Yian Kut-Ku. I've always found this monster funny, especially because, for many hunters, he's the first kind of winged monster that you encounter. And when you're new to the series, there's sort of an anticipation you get, wondering when you'll get to hunt all the cool dragons you see in its promo art. I mean, seriously, every installation has a badass monster on its box art. And for me, and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, I was wondering when I'd get to hunt this guy. Lo and behold, the first dragon I encountered, if you could even call it that, was this adorable, glorified chicken. Now, as pathetic as this monster seems, it was actually the first wall for many hunters back then, me included. I think the charge attack that has no warning, the crazy number of fireballs it could spit out in succession, and, in true Monster Hunter fashion, the annoying hip checks it could do was probably why it was so annoying. Alas, even after years of experience, I fall to my knees in defeat against this vicious wyvern. Now at this point, I hadn't upgraded the starter longsword at all, and had a lot of trouble with it bouncing in this hunt. Fortunately, the right trigger spirit combo attacks have built-in Mind's Eye, which means that they don't deflect regardless of sharpness. In the older games, longsword didn't have the cool counters and perfect dodges you could do in succession. It was as simple as charging your gauge with attacks and consistently landing your spirit combo to maintain your red longsword. The giant chicken is slain, and we venture further into the Everwood. We reach a zone that should have some treasure for us, and we dig out some battered armor. We hop on the wagon once more, and it's a pair of gloves that has some decent defense. We can't use it at all right now though. And just to get another optional quest out of the way, I roll the dual blades, get an upgrade, and exterminate another Celtas. That's almost every 2-star quest done. Back at Habar, the caravaneer tells us that he's gotten the Wycoon to join the caravan, but we need to slay a Kecha Wacha that's endangering his trade route. We'll also be headed towards a new village after this, with new locales and monsters for us to hunt. It's time for our first urgent quest. I speed through the remaining optional quests, and we roll the hammer. After that Kut-Ku sharpness fiasco, I figured it was best to finally upgrade our gear and get a shiny new hammer with green sharpness. Side note, how does sharpness work on blunt weapons? It's hard to believe this hammer is sharper than the longsword. We eat and set off to the ancestral step, and get a greeting from our furry friend. That greeting included some nasty spit that I didn't appreciate, so it's time to start bonking. I don't even know where to start to describe this guy. It's like an elephant flying squirrel monkey. It also has a really cool armor set to go along with it. It seems to be inspired off of the Monkey King Sun Wukong, and its insect glaive design only supports that. My favorite part about this monster is that, when it's enraged, it uses its big floppy ears to cover its face like a mask. The markings on its ears make it look like intimidating eyes, and it just adds to how well designed the Kecha Wacha is. Now, while I did upgrade my hammer, I did not upgrade my armor at all, and that came to bite me in the back when I faint once again to the Kecha Wacha's unrelenting attacks. We give it one last slap in the knee and claim our revenge. I'd say the hammer upgrade did wonders. After clearing our first urgent quest, we finally unlock the Wycoon's Wyporium. It effectively acts as the farms that were present in previous games, letting us multiply various resources for crafting. And for the actual best part of the Wyporium, it lets us trade monster parts for parts from monsters that aren't present in the game, allowing us to forge even more varieties of equipment. Even though it was probably just a clever way for Capcom to reuse existing equipment models without having to completely bring their monsters back, it was added in a way that felt somewhat immersive, and all in all, it only benefited us players by giving us more equipment to choose from. With the urgent quest done, we report to the boss and set off for Harth. Apparently, Harth is a great craftsman and will need to employ their help to create a new ship for the caravan. The caravan departing for Harth is one of my favorite Monster Hunter cutscenes ever. We arrive in the volcano village, although it seems its residents aren't feeling too happy. I think a village review is only fair once they're feeling better. There's a little blonde girl called Little Miss Forge, who, thanks to Wilds, we now know as Gemma, who fills us in on the situation. They seem to be depressed because they can't continue mining, which is the one activity that keeps this village happy and running. Their troubles seem to be caused by a Tetsu, and of course, this means it's time for us to hunt it. Another spin of the wheel lands on the light bowgun, which is probably my least used weapon in the franchise ever.
Fuck.
I forge a basic one that can at least fire level 2 pellet shot. Thankfully, the armor I've been rocking allows for both Blade Master and Gunner weapons, so I don't have to worry about forging a whole nother Gunner set yet. That's right, before World, every armor set had 2 variants, a Blade Master one and a Gunner one. They'd even have different skills to accommodate for the weapon differences. After doing as much mining and bug catching on the way as possible, we reach the monster and get a sweet intro cutscene. It was a huge struggle getting used to the bowgun's controls, especially since the right side analog stick on my 3DS wasn't even an analog stick. It's more like an analog, thick little rubber nib called the C-stick stick. But as awkward as the C-stick was, it was miles better than having to claw grip the controls like on previous titles. So you know what? Upon reflection, thank you, Nintendo. The Tetsu itself is one of my favorite non-flagship monsters too. It has a really cool design theme for its equipment, and its a little gimmick where it fights you with rocks was pretty fun. It's a shame it's only appeared in like 2 games, technically 3 if you count the baby one in Rise. Anyways, after almost running out of pellet ammo, we take the big frog down and report back to the village chief. Slaying the frog seems to have lifted their mood up, however, the volcanic lava required for their crafts has stopped flowing. Curious about the ship, the chief asks the caravaneer about its purpose. The glint in his eyes spark again as he explains the article and the caravan's purpose to finding its origins. The chief recalls when his great-grandfather claimed that Harth was visited by a legendary Wyverian artisan. He possessed a gleaming artifact that was very much like the one in the caravaneer's hands. He mentions a Wyverian village across the sea named Cathar, and the caravaneer decides that that's our next destination. The crew will think of some ship designs, while the man requests the collection of some Gypsaros material for the ship. Before that though, I speed through a quick Rhinopolis quest, before heading off to clear an optional quest involving another Kecha Wacha. The wheel gives me the greatsword, so I figured it'd be a good excuse to forge myself a nice one. And as simple as the greatsword is, I'm sure many would agree that it's the poster weapon of Monster Hunter. Whether you just like big juicy hits or you want to feel like guts, it's a weapon that I think resonates with a lot of hunters. In 4 Ultimate, the combo was always a level 3 charge slash into the strong charge slash, topping it off with the final swipe. There's also nothing more satisfying in Monster Hunter than landing a huge hit that knocks the monster down. Despite its simplicity, the greatsword is probably one of the hardest to master. Picture the Charge Blade, a weapon that gives you access to an instant guard point that is flexible enough to use in almost every situation. A monster's running at you, guard point. A fireball's flying at you, guard point. It's a mechanic that can be used reactively very reliably. The greatsword though, you'd better get used to sheathing that thing and running around until an opening pops up. While it's a pretty straightforward weapon moveset wise, the challenge of the greatsword lies not in learning the weapon, but instead learning a monster's behavior and positioning yourself accordingly. Of course, this doesn't stop me from constantly getting greedy, trying to squeeze in another hit and getting punished for it every time. But hey, the satisfaction from the 1 out of 10 times that it does lead to a flinch makes it all worth it. We make relatively quick work of the Kecha Wacha and report back to Sophia. It's time for the man's key request, and the wheel demands that I use the longsword again. After that deflecting fiasco with the Yian Kut-Ku from before, I upgrade my longsword and head straight for the Gypsaros. In its intro cutscene, we get a display of the things this annoyance of a monster does. Running on and jumping off the ceiling, faking its death, and then a cool dynamic transition into his trademark flashbang move. A Superman dive out of the flashbang as it completely stuns you if you don't avoid it. Apparently, it generates that blinding light by striking the crest on its head. Apart from being able to stun you, its rubbery skin makes it resistant to shock traps, and if that wasn't enough, yep, it spits poison too. 7 minutes of tussling about later, it's weakened enough to want to fly to its sleeping spot. I give it a rude awakening and it dies. Of course, it's not actually dead, as there's no victory music to congratulate us. It's the perfect time to squeeze in some extra hits before it finally succumbs to its wounds. As we return, we get a cutscene showing the reappearance of the Ace Cadet and what seems to be the rest of his squad. The Ace Commander looks down on us, which I mean, I don't blame him for at this point, but still, it's pretty rude. The Ace Cadet introduces us to the other members and tells us not to get too worked up about the commander. He's probably the tough love type. We meet the Ace Lancer, who is this guy from Monster Hunter Wilds, and learn that he was once part of the very caravan that we have joined up with. We talk to the Ace Gunner too, who mentions that the Ace Hunters are here to investigate a mysterious monster. Foreshadowing, perhaps? The next key quest on our list tasks us with capturing a Gendrome. It's blocking the street cook's fish cart route, and completing it will upgrade the fish ingredient at the canteen. The wheel gives us a new weapon, the lance, so I give it a quick upgrade and depart. Now, the Gendrome's basically just a Velocidrome that has the ability to paralyze you. Similarly, they hunt in a pack of Genprey around them, but overall, it shouldn't pose too much of a threat. I love the lance because of its constant damage output. You get the added safety of the best shield in the game, and you have access to a counterattack to keep the flow going. The Gendrome's weaken pretty fast, and I follow it into the next area to go and set a trap. Then I'll just tranquilize it, and then we're done. Or so I thought. We're a second too late for the trap to set off, and the Gendrome crawls into the furthest zone of the map. As that was the only trap in my disposal, I thought it would be best to wake it up and wait for it to head back to the area where the trap was set. All seems to go well, and it does go back, but then the trap despawns. not to worry, because I completed the subquest of slaying 5 gun prey, I remember that there should be bonus supply items that include another trap. Perfect. I head back to the Gendrome, and, eager to not make the same mistake again, I placed a trap right in front of its escape path. What the fuck? At this point, I couldn't be bothered to attempt luring it again, so I cut my losses and head back via completing the subquest. This means that the quest won't actually count as complete, and I'd have to do it all over again. Welp, as per the rules, I spin the wheel again, and it's the heavy bowgun this time. I upgrade the starter one and set off for the same quest for round 2. This time, I wait for it to scurry off to its sleeping zone before placing my trap. I wanted to break its crest, but figured against risking it in the last second, so I place my trap and get ready to trank it. Phew. Thank God I managed to knock it down and get it to aggro my hunter again. I never thought I'd struggle in such a simple quest. We return to Harth, and since we completed that key quest, we get a few new requests from the villagers and the chief. First of all, we find out that one of the miners is actually undercover and a part of the egg syndicate too, and that he got word from the Habar armory about our fine egg delivery work. Complete this delivery, and he'll put in a word with the Dawn to make us the head of a whole syndicate branch. Aside from that, the chief informs us that a Nerscylla's nest is the reason for the village's blocked lava flow. With that, we've got our next urgent quest.
No! God, please, no!
That's right, it's time for another egg delivery quest. This time, instead of those puny Gargwa eggs, we're delivering some herbivore eggs. It'll be in the Sunken Hollow, which, if you've noticed, is full of tall drops and cliffs to climb. Oh boy. I aim to eat for Super Cat once more and depart on our grim mission. First of all, I had to locate the eggs. I travel across the locale and gather along the way before it dawns on me that the herbivores in question that I'll be stealing from are these Rhinopolis. Yeah, the annoying background monsters that constantly charge straight at you. I break the first egg by accidentally dashing up the wall, so I grab another and patiently climb up. And, like some kind of karmic punishment for stealing eggs from the local wildlife, not only is the next area filled with Melinxes that love trying to rob you, the next one's filled with these conchu bugs that ball up and roll towards you Metroid style. That's not all. The next area has Rhinopolis too, but the actual butt clencher of a problem is the Benahabra floating around the cliff path waiting to sting you with their stupid butt stingers. Go away. It's a long climb back up to our item box, but the first egg is done and dusted. Luckily for us, this quest doesn't make us suffer by blocking that path we took earlier with another giant boulder. Perhaps the Monhun gods figured it was enough suffering to deal with all these obstacles on the way, so I grab the second egg, scoot past all the same monsters from earlier, and smoothly complete the quest. Now, not to toot my own horn or anything, but from the words of the miner himself, I wish I knew what the opposite of Butterfingers was, because that's what we are. With the Dawn impressed, he wants to see us sometime, and we quickly run away before the miner can start his syndicate song shenanigans. What's up with these guys? Before we liberate Harth's magma flow, I wanted to do the other urgent quest first. It's a Basarios in the Everwood, and since I rolled the heavy bowgun again, I figured it was time for a substantial upgrade. Using the Wiporium to trade Jaggi parts for Arzuros parts, I upgrade my bowgun, giving it the ability to siege fire pellet shot. We arrive, and my hunter accidentally ends up on the back of a well-camouflaged Basarios, and the cutscene seamlessly transitions into a free mount for us. Awesome. I didn't really talk about the heavy bowgun earlier, but it's my preferred choice between the two bowguns. You're a lot slower holding this hunk of a weapon, but you get access to siege mode. When you enter siege mode, it braces your hunter down on the spot and lets you fire certain ammo types at a faster rate. And to accommodate for that, you also have access to a massively increased magazine size while in siege mode. It's risky, but allows for some of the highest DPS in the game. Being the greedy player that I am, I constantly get punished for not rolling out of siege mode earlier, but I do enough damage to chase it away and manage to find some treasure while mining. After a quick walk, I find our rocky friend hiding in the ground and put him out of his misery. It's time for another urgent quest. You know the drill. I get the charge blade, but figured it wasn't time for an upgrade yet. We seek the Nerscylla out and quickly find out why it's so menacing. My hunter gets webbed up and almost chomped in half by its huge jaws. It can poison you with its pincer jaws and has the ability to put your hunter to sleep with its sting. Fun fact, it actually wears Gypsaros hide, and you can even see webbed up Gypsaros corpses in its nest area. If I'm not wrong, this is the first ever spider-like monster introduced in the franchise. It was the first of the Temnoceran monster class, which was introduced in this very generation of Monster Hunter. Other Temnocerans in the series include the Arachnophobiya in Rise, and the Lalabarina in Wilds. I was so glad the Nerscylla was brought back in Wilds, because it has some of the coolest equipment designs in the franchise. I mean, just look at that greatsword. The hunt was a little rough for me, as I was still on yellow sharpness, and kept bouncing off of its huge pincer jaws. So rough, in fact, that I even fainted to it. I do the walk of shame, but managed to finish it off with a satisfying element discharge. We return to Harth, but it seems they've already received the good news. Look how lively the village is, and look at our new ship. A chat with the chief, Caravaneer, and Gemma reveals that our new ship has been named the Arluk, which means whale. Our next destination is revealed to be Cathar, but just as we're about to leave, Little Miss Forge begs the Caravaneer for the chance to join the caravan. Her protective stepfather is obviously opposed to the idea, but she's dead set on the opportunity to meet Wyverians, see the world, and improve her craftsmanship. The chief eventually gives her his blessing, and says that no matter how far she goes, she'll always be his daughter. They say their goodbyes, and we get ready to board our new ship to Cathar. But first, now that Harth's been restored to its former glory, it's time for our next village review. Starting off, we've got a view of our incredible new vessel, the Arluk. You can spot what seems to be a Dragonator in the mouth of the whale, proving that it's got some serious firepower. A short walk onwards and we'll find the Harth Market, modestly decorated with some select rugs, crystals, and of course, pickaxes. A quick detour upwards reveals our street cook making use of the lava flow to fire his wok up, perhaps making the food even tastier. Our smithy section is now accompanied by Little Miss Forge, who has definitely earned her spot after designing the caravan's new ship. Quite fittingly, the Harth Armory is situated right next to the smithy, which stands proudly with a grand display of all sorts of weapons that have been locally forged with pride. Just like the chief, the armorer can't stand to see little Gemma set sail. Down at the bottom left, there's a miner hacking away at stone, and an impressive mechanical claw that's transporting material out of the lava pit. There's even a spot here that gives us free pickaxes. Following the minecart's path to the right, we end up in front of the Rust Abolisher. Powered by the heat of the lava, this antiquary lets us polish and upgrade the relics we find in guild quests. Compared to Habar, what Harth lacks in striking colors and busy crowds, it makes up for with the people and culture who pride themselves on practicality. Overall, because of how they've helped us build a ship, and how it's led to yet another caravan member, I'd give Harth 5 out of 5 stars. With Harth up and running again, it's our cue to leave for Cathar on our brand new ship. We're all packed up and it's smooth sailing from here until a sudden storm emerges, engulfing our vessel in the blink of an eye. In the distance, a black-winged wyvern swoops in to attack our ship. As the caravan's hunter, we're gonna have to attempt to repel this mysterious monster. We've got cannons, ballista, and even a dragonator at our disposal. The Guildmarm warns us that its attacks infect us with some sort of virus, and the only way to get rid of it is to do as much damage as possible to build immunity. Failing to do so will make us more vulnerable to virus-based attacks and have weaker natural recovery. Also, for some reason that I don't remember, my hunter was still equipped with a starter armor that can barely withstand this monster's attacks. Halfway through the fight, the monster flies in front of our ship's dragonator, but I was way too late and completely missed the timing. To add insult to injury, I get decimated by the monster's blast. I return to the fight and I'm forced to use the ballista to attack the monster while it's in the air, and it even charges me off the ship.
I'm under the water.
This time around though, I do enough damage to repel the virus and get a temporary boost in strength. I kept getting stuck in a cramped corner and faint once again to the monster's blast, but it leads to an opportunity to finally land the Dragonator attack, dealing massive damage to it. With the help of a few cannonballs and my palico, we successfully repelled the monster. We've washed up in Cheeko Sands. How did we end up here? The village chief welcomes us to stay and rest here, and we learn that the ace commander rammed the monster with a ship in order to save us. After an impact like that, we washed up right here in Cheeko Sands. We learn of the monster's name, the Gormagala. Turns out, it's the monster the ace hunters have been investigating. The commander refers to the boss as Lord Scribe, a hint to the Caravaneer perhaps having a more learned past than he lets on. The ace commander slights us once more, suggesting that the Caravaneer should employ a more capable hunter, but he shoots him down as he believes in our potential. With the mention of Cathar, the Cheeko Sands chief informs us that Cathar is actually situated on the highest of mountaintops. A village in the sky, if you will. Stumped by that piece of info, our caravan plans to recover in Cheeko Sands, and in return, we'll do a few favors for the chief and the residents. Welp, it wasn't where we intended to reach, but we've ended up here in Cheeko Sands. The immediate highlight of the village is the sizable shipwreck by the edge of the island. Together with its imposing anchor, it serves as the backdrop for the village chief, a gentle and caring Wyverian lady. She was once a trader and sailor of that very ship with a crew of felines. It was a monster that wrecked the ship, causing them to wash up on this island. Doesn't that sound familiar? There's a lot more to the chief's story, but that'll be for another video. The Cheeko Sands Market is right next to her, being kept by an enthusiastic feline atop displays of various fish and tropical delights. Just to the left of the market, we have the Cheeko Sands Armory. The feline here is a lot more laid back than their counterpart, and there seems to be a lack of equipment on display, barring an impressively sized greatsword. With how isolated this beach is, I figure business is naturally slow for an armory, so I don't blame him. There's a poor cowardly palico here, convinced that it won't ever be strong enough to hunt monsters. Further left, we can observe a palico-sized makeshift boat, and if we follow its path, we'll arrive in Sunsnug Isle. There's an eager head whiskeress in charge of this cozy isle, with plans to turn it into a garrison of ready-to-hunt palicos. In the distance, a sword is buried in stone. Our palico aura farms a little bit and catches an arrow midair that contains a distress message from the wild palicos requesting support against the Congalala. It's a cozy village filled with adorable felines, and it has a relaxing atmosphere that gives us a break amidst these trying times. I think I'll give this village 5 out of 5 stars. Catching up with our caravan members, we learned from the Wycoon that perhaps our wreck was a blessing in disguise, as the only way to reach Cheeko Sands is by getting lost. And, by chatting with the other ace hunters, we pieced together a few more details about what happened out at sea. The ace gunner spotted our ship in distress, and the commander took it upon himself to ram the Gormagala in order to save us. In fact, it was the commander himself that pulled us out of the water. We get a hint at his soft side, as according to the gunner, he feels guilty for stealing the ace lancer from the caravan for his team. He thus feels a sense of responsibility to protect our caravan. Anyways, after doing some optional quests, I set off to save the wild palicos in distress. We spooked the Congalala out of the palico hideout, and we learn a little more about this brave palico that we can hire at the end of our hunt. We chased the Congalala down and put my shiny new light bowgun to use. As opposed to the heavy bowgun siege mode, the light bowgun has rapid fire capability instead. Depending on your bowgun, certain ammo types can be fired multiple times for the cost of 1 ammo. On my aptly named shotgun light bowgun, it can rapid fire level 1 pellet ammo 3 times for the cost of 1. Anyways, enough about the weapon. Let's address the ape in the room. This guy is a giant pink gorilla that, when he isn't trying to maul you to death, he's employing his dietary habits to wage biological warfare instead. He can literally fart on you with enough force to throw you on your back, or eat a variety of mushrooms that augment his breath attacks. While most times it's usually a poisonous mushroom, he'll sometimes eat nitro shrooms and expel pure flames upon his enemies. Regardless, we teach him a lesson in hygiene and finally bring him to mercy. God, I still stink. I decide to hire that palico we rescued and give him a name to commemorate this memory. Upon return, the ace hunters depart for the Gormagala as they've received clearance from the guild to hunt it.
Bye, have a great time.
Reporting back to the head whiskeress, we see that Sunsnug Isle is officially up and running. She tells us of the Meowster Hunters, a group of palicos famous for their heroism. Our palico fails at his attempt to catch the arrow again, but it doesn't matter for the head whiskeress who's too love-struck to notice. The message this time is from the Meowster Hunters, who have apparently run into trouble on their way to Sunsnug Isle. It's time to go save them. I rolled the greatsword, so I decided on an upgrade as well. We set off for the frozen seaway and reached the Palicos in distress. Despite their supposed reputation for bravery, they run off in fear, and it's up to us to bring the Zamtrios down. The Zamtrios looks like a combination of a shark and a frog, and it has the ability to encase itself in ice armor. We slowly chip it off, and the Zamtrios retaliates by erratically inflating its belly with air. The Zamtrios was also one of my favorite monsters back then, especially because of its sleek armor set, and also because it's straight up just a giant shark on land. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight, and we managed to save the Palicos. We hired them all for Sunsnug Isle and report back to the boss to see what's next. While brainstorming ideas on how to reach Cathar, Little Miss Forge suggested the obvious solution to reaching a village on a mountaintop. Why don't we just fly there? It's a bit of a crazy idea at first, but it seems that everyone agrees it's the best way forward. So, once we're done helping out around here, we'll return to Harth to transform our ship into an airship. A confrontation with the Cheeko-san's armory feline reveals that he's actually part of the Egg Syndicate. That's right, behind the facade of a lazy, lounging feline lies the cunning of an Egg Syndicate member that proves that no region is out of the Syndicate's reach. He's heard of our rapid rise up the egg delivery ladder, and this time we're gonna need to deliver wyvern eggs. Oh boy. He ends the conversation with a threat to our life if we were to reveal this secret identity of his, so I guess it's time for us to deliver more eggs. This time though, I have a plan. There's an armor skill in this game called Transporter without the E, and if we manage to get 10 points of this skill, we'll get Pro Transporter, a skill that increases your hunter's speed while transporting items and decreases the likelihood of dropping them. How I'm gonna achieve these 10 points is through crafting the Loklak chest piece and boots, which grants 8 points, and then gemming in a transport jewel that gives the extra 2 points to enable the skill. Side note, in these old games, you'd need 10 points in a skill just to activate its effects. We can make the armor already, and I set off to hunt a Gypsaros to get the dash extract that I need to craft the decoration. Check out our new stylish armor. Now, the last time we stole some poor animal's eggs, it was from a Rhinopolis. This time, we'll be stealing from a Rathian, a full-fledged flying wyvern that can spit fireballs and slap you with backflips. So, just in case any retaliation is required, I bring along a hunting horn, the weapon chosen by the wheel. I arrive at her nest, and it seems there's already some Jaggi attempting to steal the eggs. The queen returns to defend her babies, and in her false sense of security, we emerge from our hiding spot and nab the first egg from right under her nose.
Yeah, boy.
We've taken this route before in the first extraction quest, so the first egg is delivered smoothly. Returning to the nest, the same boulder from before blocks the shortest path back, so a detour is required. I brace myself for an angry Rathian, but she seems to be missing. I don't know if that's better or worse. With the second egg in our hands, I head back down. See how these malinks have suddenly appeared? I dodge a few more Jaggi and reach the second last area. The Rathian gives me a spook as she seems to have zeroed in on our position, but luckily I was far enough from her roar and it couldn't cause our egg to drop. That's the second egg done, and quest complete. Reporting back to the Cheeko-san's armory, he says he's got the okay to promote us. The mysterious syndicate Don might even approach us directly. He attempts to start the syndicate song, but as usual, we leave before he can start. After a few boring optional quests, I head for our next key quest that involves hunting a Najarala. It's a giant snake wyvern that can fire its huge scales into the ground and, using its vibrating sounder organ, cause them to explode. Its signature attack mimics the behavior of a constrictor snake, trapping you within its body before burrowing underground to attack. Fun fact, the Najarala and the Remobra are the only snake wyverns in the Monster Hunter series. Despite its intimidating size and appearance, it's no match for our shotgun, and we successfully bring it down. With that success, we've allowed our cook's kitchen to be renovated, which means higher quality ingredients for us. We report to the Cheeko-san's chief before she points out a worried look on the caravanier's face. Checking up with him, it's revealed to be bad news. The Ace Hunters failed to take down the Gormagala, and only 2 of them made it back injured to the gathering hall. We get an account of what happened, and learn that the black dust from its scales is used as an auxiliary sense to cover for its blindness. The Lancer and Cadet are still out there, with no connection or response to the guild network. We're advised not to act rashly by going for them, but it seems that our Palico has already done so and run off. It's a grave emergency, so, despite the Guildmaster's warnings, the Caravaneer calls for an expedition to locate the Gormagala and the missing Ace Hunters. We set off for the Everwood, and upon arrival, we spot our Palico protecting the Ace Cadet and the injured Lancer. Just as the Gormagala reaches them, we arrive in the nick of time to wrangle it away, and now we've got to draw its attention while the Ace Hunters make their escape. This time, I've got my chainmail armor back on, so I can withstand a little more of its attacks. At least, that's what I thought, as I once again faint to one of its frenzy blasts mid-combo. Despite that, it retreats for now, and we head over to escort the struggling Ace Hunters. A boulder's blocking the way out, so we protect the group from a Velociprey pack, while the Cadet sets up an explosive to blast the boulder to bits. A pack of Conga appear and threaten the hunters, so we clear them out before the Gormagala returns for round 2. It goes a little better this time, as I survive for longer and even manage to get my red longsword up. My newfound confidence doesn't last too long, as I faint once more, right as we get word that there's another boulder blocking the way. We rush back and successfully repel the Gormagala, and the Cadet blows the boulder up once more as we secure their safety and escort them back. With news of our successful rescue mission, we gain the respect of both the Guildmaster and the Ace Commander. Unexpectedly, he even requests the Guildmaster to allow and assist us to hunt the Gormagala. That's right, the Ace Commander, who once used to think our hunter was an advocate for the caravan, now believes that no one else is more capable to hunt down what the Ace Hunters failed to. How could we refuse? Before we confront the Gormagala, I decide to get an upgrade to our armor after fainting so many times against it. The Baroth armor set comes with attack up S and guard +1, making it a pretty good all-purpose Blademaster set going forward. I trade in some Gypsaros parts for Baroth parts at the Wiporium, and have just enough to forge a full set of Baroth armor. How do I look? I roll the sword and shield and decide to upgrade to the Gypsaros one that has decent attack and poison status. As we set off, we get well wishes from all of our new friends, reminding us just how much hunting the Gormagala would mean to not just them, but the Ace Hunters and the guild too. We reach Area 7, and a familiar shadow consumes the sky. A black powder creeps out, and that only means that our frenzied friend has returned for round 3. It seems just as vengeful as us, as it sports two protruding glowing horns that we haven't seen before. It roars with newfound aggression, and we get to hunting. After a lot of constant wailing at the beast, a lunging strike knocks it out of its horned state and it flies off to a different area. I catch up to it and successfully mount it before continuing my flurry of sword and shield attacks. Before I know it, the gore is already weakened and it limps off to an adjacent area. I go after it before it gets a chance to rest, and we trade blows in the vine-filled area. Another strike scars its head, and we dodge a few more blasts before finally striking it down mid-air. With celebrations done, the Ace Commander recognizes our deed and promises to repay us, and the Caravaneer boasts about us being the real deal. With the Gormagala hunted, we can continue the caravan's purpose, the article. After completing the few remaining quests in Cheeko Sands, we return to Harth to tell the chief about our plans to fashion the Arlek into a flying airship. He's ready to assist us, but they need to generate a ton of heat, which means we need to gather a lot of coal. The miners have a bit of trouble reaching the coal, as the Gravios is blocking their way in the volcanic hollow. It should be no problem for us, but I opt to complete a few other optionals first before tackling the Gravios. Firstly, taking out 2 Nerscylla for an upgrade to our street cook's ingredients. Secondly, taking out an Gendrome, which was a breeze thanks to our newly forged armor. What's an Gendrome? Picture our Gendrome friend from before, but with poisonous spit instead of paralyzing fangs. Third, a pack of Io prey. And lastly, gathering 5 bundles of coal. With those optionals out of the way, we can focus on our major minor problem, the Gravios.
Okay.
The weapon wheel decides it's time for me to use the heavy bowgun again, so I decide to forge some new armor to use with our gunner weapons. I decide on the Engut armor, which gives us recoil reduction +1, and pellet up for our pellet bowguns. I upgrade to a Kongalala heavy bowgun too, and set off for the Gravios. We reach the lava pools and dodge a blazing ray of heat before seeing the monstrosity that emerges from the lava. It's the Gravios, a fully matured Basarios with even thicker stone-like armor to match its titanic stature. It still has the ability to expel gases from its belly, but instead of poison, it's gases that put our hunter to sleep, or red-hot gases vented in order to cool itself down after firing its heat ray. A solution to its gas attacks is to crack open its back, causing the gases to expel from the top instead of the bottom. A few successful mounts is enough to do so. Wounding its stony carapace reveals a soft interior, which we can capitalize on with our attacks. Another mount this time lands us on its belly while it lays upside down, giving us an opportunity to crack open its belly armor. From here on out, it's just constant siege mode firing to pump out that DPS. On my last few shots of pellet ammo, the Gogmazios is finally taken down, and that's Harth's coal problem solved. We return to our newly fitted Arlec, which now has the capability to fly, and head towards the village in the heavens, Cathar. Without further ado, we say our goodbyes to the chief, who has to see his daughter off once again. We set sail, we take off for Cathar and our new airship. The second we arrive, we see a quaint village adorned in a lavender color scheme, whether it be the flagpoles, roofs, or even the villagers' clothing. We're immediately greeted by a spiteful boy who can't seem to stop spitting with every sentence in his excitement. Being such a remote village, he's understandably excited about meeting a hunter and seeing a huge flying whale ship. He mentions the boss talking with the village elder, perhaps asking for clues about the article. Further up by a plot of soil, we meet a smiling youth, a polite and well-spoken farmer tending to his crops. The Cathar armory is kept by an older Wyverian who seems to doze off to the peaceful winds of the village. Despite his sleepy habits, he provides pretty useful tips. Note the astounding size of the two longswords on display. To the right of the armory is the Cathar market, boasting a vibrant display of what's probably locally harvested produce, along with some pickaxes. Further up, we also meet Maximeld the 14th, the current melding potmaster of Cathar from a long line of predecessors that reaches back to the very Wyverian that invented the art of melding. Finally, we meet the Cathar elder, who stands by a gate barring a bridge that leads into a cave. He welcomes us to the village of Crying Wind, and claims that these celestial winds blow evil back right where it came from. The caravaneer pulls out the article to inquire about its origins, but the elder is shocked upon seeing it and says it's a bad omen for the village and its residents. He refers to a calamity that happened a long time ago at Heaven's Mount. All the monsters went berserk, leaving behind a field of corpses and carcasses. He says the article comes from the sanctuary, a place where no one is allowed into, that is sealed by a sigil. He thinks it's just a fairy tale, but as the village elder, he must take precautions regardless. Overall, Cathar's humble size lends itself to its peaceful nature and serves as the perfect backdrop for its, for lack of better words, humble and pure Wyverian residents. There seems to be a motif of pinwheels, further supported by the windmill by our street cook station. I think my rating's pretty obvious. I'd give Cathar 5 out of 5 stars. Well, before we get to squeeze more info out of the Cathar Elder, we've been tasked with hunting a Congalala that's been exhibiting strange symptoms. I get the sword and shield again and arrive in a new locale, which is made up of areas that seem to float in the sky. We can even spot multiple Rathalos flying in the distance, which gives us an idea of the true scale of this locale. We spot our Congalala target, and it seems especially agitated. It's probably related to the black fumes emitting from its mouth. Where have we seen that before? Our target marker labels it as frenzied, and it seems to be a lot more aggressive than that first Congalala we hunted. While it's a lot fiercer, at the end of the day, it's still a Congalala, and we take it down with relative ease. Before we return to Cathar, we get a reveal of what happened to that Gormagala we hunted down. We report to the Caravaneer, and he says the Congalala's behavior sounds like what happened in the Calamity from ages ago, and that we should talk to the Elder about it. To no one's surprise, the Elder's frightened by this news, and says we'll have to report it to the Grand Guru, a hallowed figure that has protected the mountain over many ages. That's what the cave behind the Elder is, a shrine where the Grand Guru apparently resides. The Elder tasks us with hunting some monsters in Heaven's Mount to look for more signs of the Calamity, namely the Rathalos, Seltas Queen, and Zinogre. These are significant milestone monsters, as their armor provides pretty strong armor skills that we can use. I personally always make the Rathalos armor for its attack up skill, so that'll be my next goal. The Rathalos nest is all the way up at the top of the locale, and we don't seem to welcome near his eggs. A poor Aptonoth's flung at us as a welcome gift, and we're off to a horrible start as I get fireballed and miss my flash bomb. It gets even worse when I get knocked off the ledge into a wild palico spot, but at least we find a palico for hire here. It's quite a trip back to the nest, and once I make my way back to the Rathalos, I fall victim to a whopping 8 tail swipes in a row. What are the chances of that even happening? I realized I even forgot to bring along all of my healing items, so I was left with just the quest supplies, which I had just run out of. I resort to relying on my many flash bombs to continue beating on the Rathalos, and it finally flees to rest at its nest. I slay it with a leap and strike to its face, and that's our first Rathalos of many to come. I'm still gonna need a few tails, and its rare drop, the Rathalos Plate, in order to forge the whole armor set. So, without wasting any more time, it's time for another Rathalos hunt. And another. And another. And another. After 9 Rathalos hunts that in total took longer than what this video's duration will end up being, I finally get the elusive Rathalos Plate. Now we can forge some brand spanking new Rathalos armor. With the help of a few more attack decorations, we can achieve attack up large and have space to gem out recovery down. Awesome. I was so immersed in obtaining this new armor that I forgot to mention that the Caravaneer has gone elsewhere to figure something out. I'm sure he'll be fine, so let's put our new armor to use. Thankfully, I rolled the dual blades instead of a ranged weapon that I wouldn't be able to use with our new armor. Our next target is the Seltas Queen, the much larger, almost crab-like female counterpart of the Seltas. She asserts dominance with her pheromone-filled stink gas, and, using her crescent-tipped tail, she positions the Seltas right on her head to augment her attacks. She's capable of firing mucus blasts, and can use the Seltas on her head to either propel herself forwards or lift herself in the air. It is that exact combo that caused me to faint. Of course, as is the tradition for insect monsters in Monster Hunter, her armor set looks totally badass. I hope and pray that she'll make a return in Monster Hunter Wilds. Anyways, we take her down and head back to tell the Elder that we haven't seen any more frenzied monsters around. However, he notices that our guildmarm's trying to get our attention. We check in with her, and it's because the guild has ordered us to hunt a Tigrex. More specifically, a frenzied Tigrex. The Tigrex is famously already incredibly fierce, so I can't imagine a frenzied one. Let's save that for after the other optional quests. We also check in with the Smiling Youth, and he confides in us that, because of a strange wind upon Heaven's Mount, he feels that something just isn't right. We tell him of the frenzied Congalala we took down, and he says that explains a lot before thanking us for our service. He tells us a little more about the aforementioned sanctuary on top of Heaven's Mount. Cathar has accounts of the event in their history. Some describe a god that descended from heaven to punish the mountain creatures, while others describe a baleful wind that carved the mountain black. In any case, the truth is lost, and no one now dares to approach the sanctuary. All this exposition probably means that the story's climax is coming close. Welp, before we tackle our Tigrex problem, let's deal with some optional quests. The first one's a request from the Wycoon that'll unlock more monster parts for trade, and it involves hunting both a Zinogre and Rathalos. I go for the Zinogre first, an electric wolf monster that first appeared in Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. According to Monster Hunter's 20th anniversary poll, the Zinogre is the most popular monster in the whole franchise, and for good reason too. Obviously, it looks really cool, and, using its symbiotic relationship with thunderbugs, it can channel electricity to charge itself and eventually reach a powered-up state. Sort of like going Super Saiyan. Its theme is also incredibly iconic. Anyways, as cool as the Zinogre is, we slay it in record time with our heavy bowgun and then head for the Rathalos. I don't have anything else to say after single-handedly reducing this guy's population, so just know that I slayed him with just as much spite as the previous 9 times. Next, I had to clear a separate Zinogre quest that was meant as its actual introduction, but I rolled the heavy bowgun again, so it was just a quick rehash of the previous hunt. Now, before tackling the frenzied Tigrex, I spin the wheel and get the charge blade. And because of my impatience, or perhaps stupidity, I forgot to set a new equipment loadout with the Rathalos armor set that we worked so hard for, so I'll be confronting this Tigrex with my previous Baroth armor. Perhaps quite fittingly, we find the Tigrex in the same area where we took down the Gormagala. I'm not sure if the rest are aware, but we did see what happened to that Gormagala in that one cutscene. Anyhow, for all this talk about a frenzied Tigrex, Okay, technically, they never explicitly said it was frenzied. It seems to be pretty normal so far. I even land an Ultra Element discharge that completely knocks it out. Wait, did it just die?
What's up, bitch?
Never mind. I guess this is where the fight really starts. The T-Rex is properly frenzied now, and it attacks so aggressively fast that it catches me off guard and takes me out. It's not just behavioral changes that occur when a monster is frenzied. You've probably noticed the black fumes from its mouth and glowing red eyes, but if you look a little closer, even the blood that used to be red now comes out in a tainted purple hue. It's a pretty demanding hunt, but it finally flees to rest, and I put it out of its frenzied misery with a final jumping attack. Phew. We hurry back to the village with the notice of bad news, and the elder confirms to us that the calamity appears to be repeating itself. That Zinogre we just saw was just one of many monsters currently going berserk in Heaven's Mount. In the distance, the Caravaneer has returned to Cathar with both the Ace Commander and some new discoveries. Apparently, the Gormagala we hunted had shed its skin and disappeared before the guild could reach its corpse. The frenzy virus seems to emanate from its scales. It reportedly flew straight for Heaven's Mount and smashed through the sanctuary, spreading the virus throughout the entire area. Its new form has been classified as an elder dragon and named after a local mountain god to match its ominous appearance in times of calamity, the Shagaru Magala. Fun fact, according to this game's localization director, Magala loosely translates to incarnation in Aramaic. So, the name Shagaru Magala basically stands for Incarnation of the Mountain God. In other news, we've quite literally been entrusted with the future of Cathar, as we've been selected to hunt this Elder Dragon. As a result, the Grand Guru of Cathar wishes to see us at his shrine. So let's make our way up there and finally meet him. A crest carved in the wall overlooks a shrine that's lined with pinwheels, and we see a familiar face kneeling in the light. That's right, that humble farmer we conversed with a few times is actually the Grand Guru of Cathar. I'd say it's a fitting position for him. He apologizes for the imposing introduction before reverting back to his candid self. Through discussions with the Caravaneer and the Ace Hunters, he believes there is merit to the theory that the calamity was the result of an Elder Dragon. Besides, Elder Dragons are ancient monsters that often possess phenomenal powers. He recites the Song of Cathar that has a refrain that goes, "Turn now, heaven's wheel. Turn, turn, that we may heal." And there it is. A compelling connection to what Cathar's pinwheels mean. In our real world, particularly in Japanese culture, pinwheels are used to represent one of the Buddhist teachings of reincarnation. The turning of the wheel represents the cycle of life, and as such, they are often associated with the death of children. However, I'd like to refer to its broader representations of the cycle of life and reincarnation for this case. Hear me out. What if the calamity from ages ago wasn't the first time the virus broke out? Perhaps it's a plague that occurs every few centuries or so to keep the world in check. And, in a universe revolving around monsters, what better vessel is there for divine retribution than a self-fulfilling monster like the Shagaru Magala? It spreads the frenzy and reveals itself as the incarnation of God, or a god, and in doing so, incites a mass culling of the monster population. But is the Magala truly heaven sent? Or is it just a manifestation of the will of nature taking its course? I don't think it really matters. Besides, life must leave to come again, and when it does, it springs like water, a great reprieve to end all pain. What's important is that what the Magala represents is inevitable: death and the cycle of life. In any case, we've got some loose ends to deal with before we set off for our first Elder Dragon. I don't know if the website I was using for my weapon wheel was bugged, or I just had the weirdest luck ever, but I haven't gotten the bow or gun lance at all up until this point. So, just to make sure that I use every weapon in this playthrough, we're gonna go clear some optional quests with said weapons. First up, the bow. I don't even know what kind of bow features I should be aiming for, so I just make the best one that I can and set off to hunt a Tigrex. Immediately, I feel way out of my depth as I don't even know how to apply my coatings. I figure it out after some button mashing and then try to figure out how to aim. Unlike the reticle that you get on the bow guns, the aiming on the bow instead displays an arc that shows you the path of your arrows. I struggle a lot with aiming while moving around to dodge the Tigrex, especially because it drains your stamina really quickly. I kinda recall that doing a power shot right after firing is pretty good, so I try to do that after every shot. It's a pretty poetic moment for me to be struggling against a Tigrex with the bow, as one of my most vivid memories of this game from 10 years ago involves me farming the Molten Tigrex with the bow. Back then, I was a more capable hunter fueled entirely by sugar rushes. I recall needing at least like 35 hunts just to get that goddamned Molten Tigrex heart. Anyways, I eventually completely run out of coatings and end up having to fire raw arrows at the Tigrex. At this point, I've practically been tickling this guy for 15 minutes and I start to truly feel weak. I gain a little hope when my palico breaks its head, so I soldier on and, at long last, slay the Tigrex. Next up, I take the gun lance for a spin. I'm pretty bummed out that I never got this weapon at all, as it's one of my favorites, but hey, better late than never. Basically, picture the lance, except you have a gun in it that you can blast monster faces with. Shelling also has a little built-in fire damage, and once in a while, you get to fire off a huge, long cooldown shell that's appropriately named the Wyvern's Fire. We're using it to deal with the frenzied Zamtrios and Lagombi. With a normal type gun lance like this, the aim is to just land as many full bursts as possible, where we fire all of our loaded shells at once. I blast its left fin off, and then manage to land another full burst as it transitions into its frenzied state. I keep going until I blast it to bits, and the Lagombi conveniently returns to the area. What sucks about the gun lance is that shelling really eats through your sharpness, and you're incredibly immobile while using it. But I think it's a fair drawback to having a portable cannon. Anyways, the monsters go down faster than expected, probably because of their weakness to fire. And that's our unfinished business taken care of. The time has come to hunt the Shagaru Magala, which also means it's time for our last spin of the wheel. It's somewhat anticlimactic, but we get the hunting horn. At least it wasn't the bow. I upgrade my horn as much as I can before heading off to the sanctuary. We've got all of our caravan members cheering us on again, so there's no way we can let them down. Little Miss Forage, the man, our street cook, the Waikun, our guild marm, and of course, the caravaneer. I buff myself up and head into the area. After what seems to be a look of recognition, the Shagaru Magala spreads its wings wide into a star, revealing itself as the harbinger of the calamity. What used to be sleek black scales now shine an iridescent ivory gold, and its previously glowing feelers have now matured into full-fledged horns. It seems to propagate the virus with even more efficacy than before, and attacks in an almost feral way. Its danger is apparent, so we must hunt it to ensure it doesn't bring about another cycle of violence. "9 minutes of clashing pass, and I slip up and faint to one of its attacks. I've clearly underestimated this Elder Dragon, as it takes me out again shortly after. With 1 life left, I fight with butt-clenching intensity, and alas, with a final slam on its arm, we clear the skies of its darkness and bring an end to the Shagaru Magala. We approach the corpse and spot a familiar shard sticking out of its wing. What started as the search for the origins of the peculiar article brought us to unforgettable regions, pitted us against incredible monsters, and connected us with a lovable cast of characters. We were welcomed, and at times, shunned too. Despite the odds against us, we made a name for ourselves and proved our merit to the guild, and even earned the respect of the Ace Commander. We had a grand adventure, all thanks to the Caravaneer, and upon returning to Habar, he gifts us the very article that started this journey. That, my friends, was the story of Monster Hunter 4. But what about the Daran Moran that we encountered at the start? What about the impending Elder Dragon attack at Dundorma? The sword at Sunsnug Isle? And what was the point of all those egg fetching quests? Well, truth be told, I just couldn't find a way to cram all of that into one video, and that's why this is just part 1 of my retrospective playthrough of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I want to dive into the story of the game's Ultimate expansion, explore the online guild hall side of the game, and dive deeper into lesser known lore, but that'll have to be for another video. And, despite how crappy it is, this video took a lot of effort to make, so I want to thank you and let you know that I appreciate you listening to me yap all the way to the end. Let me know about your thoughts or what your favorite part was, and if I got anything wrong, please do let me know. That's all I have for now. See y'all next time.